I think he's one of the weirdest of any player we've ever had. Right, and I'll explain my thinking.
Ever had?
Yeah, I'd have Kelly ahead of him, and I know that.
What, ahead of Casemiro?
Yeah, I would. I think Casemiro's done, you know. Jay here, Stretford Paddock. This is Off the Bat, and I'm joined by two of my favourite Manchester United personalities. We've got Mr. Ronaldo Brown. How are we doing?
Doing all right. You know.
Yeah, we give him a round of applause.
Why not? It felt like it.
Yeah, why not? A little bit of round of applause. How have you been? I've missed you, man. I've not seen you for a couple of weeks.
Do you know what? I've been good. Just
been man in the fort, man. You've been doing a fantastic job, by the way.
Night shift boy.
Yeah, 3 a.m.
Night shift boy.
3 a.m. He's here, front and centre. Him and Scotty, absolutely smashing it. And also, last but by no means least, Mr. Joe McGrath.
Yeah.
How are you doing?
I managed one of them, and that.
So we give yourself a round of applause. Give him a round of applause. Come on,
I did one
he
of them
gave you
again.
one. Do you know what I mean?
And I brought in paprika crisps.
Did you?
They helped, didn't they?
Have you brought him in now?
No.
You do like bringing in a snack, you don't you? I remember when you brought in that box of sweets. That was a great day. Great. That's probably one of the best days of my life. That
kept us going, but
Swizzle Sweets or whatever it was.
Yeah,
other sweet companies aren't available. Yeah, but if
they were great though. Those
watching.
watch-alongs. I mean, it didn't help we got beat, but they were good fun.
And watch-alongs.
Watch-along.
Use on singular. Use on one.
Wow. There you go. See, shots
him
fired.
out.
Didn't do all
Shots
three
fired.
like me and
He's not
Scotty.
gonna give you any credit for things you didn't do. We've got loads of stuff to get through. Before we get into all that, make sure you are hitting like, share, and subscribe. We want to get to 800,000 subscribers by the end of the week. With your support, we can get there. I want to talk a little bit about the midfield at Manchester United, because it's a bit of a weird one, isn't it? Like, we know we need to strengthen. We haven't strengthened the midfielders yet. We've got one of the greatest midfielders in the history of the Premier League in Kobe Mainoo. We've got another one who's not far behind him in Bruno Fernandes.
Yeah. So there's two belters.
Two belters, yeah. I think you can go with two belters. Then you've got a formerly great defensive midfielder in Casemiro, who's probably he's past his best.
Yeah.
You've also got Mason Mount, who we've yet to see much from.
£60 million Mason Mount.
£60 million Mason Mount. You've got Christian Eriksen. You've got potentially Sofian Amrabat coming back. We don't know what's going to happen. We'll get into the ones we don't know about, whether they're coming in or whatever later. I just want to talk about the ones that we know we have got. Ronnie, how do you currently assess Manchester United's midfield situation? Because we take transfers away from it. With the players you know are Manchester United midfielders right now, how do you think we stand? Do you think we're in a strong position, a weak position? What's your take?
It can be argued that the midfield was probably the biggest issue. Obviously, outside of injuries to our centre-halves last season, I thought the midfield was probably just as much of a big issue as that last season. When you have issues defensively, I know we didn't concede a bunch of goals, but it was the rate that we were conceding shots and opportunities, and we actually should have conceded a lot more. In terms of, people talk about metrics like XG, but I'm not even talking about that. I'm just talking about the amount of shots that we faced, the amount of pressure that we came under, and how open we were at times, and I thought we got away with it a lot. That wasn't, people just automatically attribute that to just the defence. So they go straight, it has to be the back four issue, but defending is a full team thing. Defending starts from the front, and the midfield is also a massive element of that as well. The midfield is there to protect the defence, and it's obviously the engine room, and it's very important. And when it's quite frail, unphysical, you got players that aren't quick enough, that having to cover space that they can't cover, it puts the defence under a lot more pressure, and then you've got that domino effect of us being as poor as we were in that aspect. And I think if we go into the season without addressing that defensive midfield area that we desperately needed to, we could end up having the same problems, because right now it's a position in football where all the top teams can't afford to have anyone that isn't quality. It's become a very important position now, and that would concern me if that doesn't get addressed. And even if we do find a stopgap, then that will obviously be beneficial, because then we can maybe go in the market again next summer and probably find someone better. But going into the season now with Casemiro as the first choice at CDM, as you've seen him perform in the last 6 months, that is a major concern, because it's not even just about him being poor now off the ball, where he seems to have lost a step. He's diving into challenges, he's too easy to get past. He's also very like almost unreliable on the ball as well.
Yeah.
He's quite progressive in his passing. He does look to pass forward a lot, but he does give the ball away a lot, and he's not very, as you'd say, secure. So you've got issues on both ends, and then you've got Bruno and Mainoo ahead of him. That's a quality duo, but you need all the parts to kind of fit together for it to work perfectly. And if we want to get the best out of Mainoo, who's still young and he's still developing, I think we've been crying out for that kind of physical defensive midfielder behind him that's got capabilities. I know it's not always United's fault because the market seems very thin for that kind of player, but we just got to say the facts. If it's not addressed, then it could be a worry.
No, I completely agree.
Yeah.
Joe, we've just played devil's advocate slightly. Is there any hope for you in Casemiro? Because I don't think he had a great pre-season by any stretch of imagination, but he looks a little bit leaner. There was some moments there.
Yeah.
Like, he probably was a little bit better than he looked towards the back end of last season. Do you think that it could be just form and that this is still a good player? Or do you really think that, like I do, to be honest with you, and I think like Ronnie said there, that this is a player that's not got it anymore?
Yeah, I think I was letting my mind wander a little bit about imagine when taking Bruno as the player was in his first full season at United, putting him with Casemiro's first full season at United and Mainoo last year. What a trio that was! But circumstances have changed, and it's all about. I think for me, Casemiro's hunger and more his mental state going into the games. Obviously, it's about his physicality as well. But is that desire and hunger really there for him to go and want to pursue another full-on season in the Premier League? It's that time of his career now where maybe money's the focus and looking to wind things down a bit, and that's not what Man United need. Man United needs someone who's got a little bit more drive and hunger about them. And when we push for that top four and we're in a nail-biting race towards the back end of the season, he gives us that little bit more of an edge, and he doesn't his fitness doesn't let him down, or he's, like Ronnie said there, he's on the ball and off the ball movement, when he's going to be surrounded by Bruno, who we know loves every inch of Man United, and he's going to try and get back up to the top four, and Mainoo, who's this youngster who wants to prove himself as being the best midfielder in the world. I don't know if he fits that three.
Okay.
It was just the way he worded that. I was mad.
What?
Yeah. He loves every inch of Man United.
Yeah.
Oh, you worried it.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, but you know what I mean, man.
That is over.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, well, you love it. What would you say then?
Joe comes from a radio background where you dead air is the worst thing you can have, so you have to fill every second.
You've got to be quite descriptive as well, every inch of Man United.
You have to have your own little way of working.
How many inches are at Old Trafford?
Yeah, well, lots.
Probably too much for you.
It's right. Casemiro, for me, it's the situation with Casemiro at United, I think is one of the weirdest of any player we've ever had. Right, and I'll explain my thinking.
Ever had?
Yeah, in terms of the weirdness of it all, right? Because you've got a player that when we bought was still quality.
Yeah.
Right? He was still regarded as one of the best in his position on the planet.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether he was still at that
You've
level.
always got to worry about why he was sold, though, don't you?
That reputation, I mean, maybe not if he actually scratched beneath the surface, was it? But he had that reputation. He comes in, and for the first few games, people forget this, he looks a bit ropey. I remember looking, Jesus, what's going on with Casemiro? I mean, he come on in a couple of games. I think, was it Leicester or Southampton? I was getting mixed up.
Yeah, he beds him in the middle.
Giving the ball away, and the manager was quite sort of patient with him. He kept McTominay in there for a little while, and people go, why is he not starting Casemiro against Arsenal? And he was just remember he brought him in slowly. Yeah. Then he hits his stride, and he's phenomenal, right? For this little spell, you're like, that's the Casemiro.
This is the one.
Yeah. Sorry, the peak of that is probably the Carabao Cup final where he's just fantastic and United win a trophy. But then he has these daft red cards. Are they his fault? Are they not? A bit harsh. That daft yellow at Sellers Park that makes him miss the Arsenal game, which to me almost seemed like he did it on purpose to prove a point to Bruno Fernandes. Like, you've dropped me in the crap here.
Yeah.
And then he has a bit of a tail off where his performances go with the dogs a little bit, and people go, is it because he's got this thing in the back of his mind about getting red cards? Anyway, at the end of that first season, you go, a good first season, a good season. Second season, scores a load of goals, early doors, and it's like you're almost pushing him further up the pitch, and this is his new role, to be a goal scorer. You're like, oh, okay, then if that's what we're going to do, right, a bit weird, but all right, we'll go with it. Then he just sort of falls off a bit of a cliff, and he looks, at times, horrendous, which is weird, considering how good he is. And there's also even little questions like his weight and stuff like that.
He did look a bit like...
Yeah, and then
McGrath.
by the end of the season, he's playing in defence, and if I'm being brutally honest, he's not doing a very good job there. But then it's not his fault. And then the season finale, he's injured for the FA Cup final, which...
What's going on? What's going through his mind?
For all
then?
intents and purposes, it wasn't an injury. It was the manager going, actually, I'm going to go with Sofian Amrabat and Casemiro so we can stick you.
That's also me, yeah.
But then, the weird thing about this is what adds to the weirdness for me. We've also got reports from Laurie Whitwell and others that him and Raphael Varane weren't feeling Ten Hag. They weren't feeling his management at all. And a bit of fifth columnist going on there in the training sort of group. And going, this guy's not the one.
What's the fifth column?
Like, you're almost working against the manager or whatever. He still keeps the armband in pre-season. So it's like, well, what's going on? It's just a whole completely weird career he's had at United. I don't mean before United. His career was phenomenal.
What's going on in his mind?
The same with Anthony. Because by all accounts, I've heard Anthony's fell out with Ten Hag.
Yeah.
And then he's come into the summer. It's quite obvious that Ineos United actually want to move on from him, unsurprisingly. And then he's kind of pushed back on it with his agent saying he doesn't want to leave, he wants to fight for his place. And in reality, it's what we've seen with a bunch of the players. It's just whatever state United are in, playing for them is upwards towards the pinnacle of world football in terms of your career and the prestige that comes with it, probably your markability with your sponsors increases as well playing for United. And I think, and the wages you're on is usually more than you get elsewhere. That needs to change. And it doesn't surprise you why players aren't in any rush to leave. Think about the amount of players over the past few seasons that we wanted to get rid of, and they've just been in no rush.
Yeah.
You've never heard about
the paycheck.
Yeah, you've not been hearing about them agreeing personal terms anywhere else or shopping themselves out. They're comfortable in Manchester on big wages that they know they're not going to get anywhere else, and they can pretty much only get a transfer that goes downwards because the fact that that surplus requirements is because they've not hit the form and the quality is required, so they're not going to get another big move.
No, you think about players such as like David De Gea, and
yeah,
you know when his contract ran out, where is he? He's still not playing for a club.
Exactly, because you've heard about Sancho having personal terms agreed with PSG, but that's one of the only clubs that you are, because it's a lateral move in a way, but it's also another club that's probably ran just as poorly in a way as United, in a way that they'll just throw money at things, so they know. But so of course, and they're not going to be in any rush to leave. It's the same with Wan-Bissaka, it's the same with McTominay. These players know they've probably had it easy, they've had it comfortably, being at a massive club like Manchester United and all the luxury that comes with it, knowing that anywhere they go now is on a downturn in their career and also financially. So it's almost like they're stuck, and it's going to take a while for Ineos to fix this. And then you've got, obviously, then you end up with Murta and Arnold going for these desperate signings when they're signing the likes of Casemiro and Varane, who are just very, very short term.
Yeah. And
you don't make the progression that you're wanting to make, and then you need to replace them a year or two down the line. They're on huge wages. You're not going to be able to get rid of them for the amount of money. You're not going to be able to recoup any of the money that you spent. And it's just this carousel of like United trying to go one step forward just to go two steps back again. And I don't know.
They've got to fix it. What would you like to see in the future for them fixing it? Is it contracts that aren't as lucrative, contracts that are a little bit more?
I think they're already trying to do that, but it's like, I've said this before, United would have been better served, where, do you know when, I think we've become very impatient because of how poor we've been in the last 10 years. But I think the signings like Varane, the signings like Casemiro, the signings like Cavani, the signings like Ronaldo, they all seem very like, almost like excitable at the time. You're getting these big names and these big experience in Champions League winners, but they're at the latter stages of their career. You might be able to get 1 or 2 seasons out of them at their peak, but all it does is affects your wage structure, but only gives you 1 or 2 seasons of quality from them, and then you're back to square one because you need to replace them anyway, and then you've already hogtied yourself in terms of PSR and FFP because you've had to pay so much wages and stuff, and you can't get the money back on it. I said at the time, I think United might have been better served. Like we linked to Sander Burge.
Yeah,
these are the signings that
I want to get into. I want to get into that in a minute because I want to get into the midfielders we've been linked with.
But no, he's right though. With that short
quickly, where we're at the minute, in terms of, let's say you had to pick a midfield 3 for the Fulham game with the players you've got at your disposal. If you're going to go 4-3-3, just for the sake of argument, I mean, it might not be, but it probably will be, or a variation of that. Who's your 3? I mean, it's got to be Mainu, Bruno, and one other in it. Surely.
Yeah, surely.
I don't see.
Then who can play CDM? Can Mount play CDM? Not really.
Well, I think he was toying with that, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was toying it a little
when
bit.
he first came in.
But he's just not had the game time, has he? He's just not had the game time.
But I don't think Mount's a CDM anymore than he's a giraffe.
Amrabat's he's a giraffe.
Well, he's not a giraffe, is he?
It's mad.
CDM, that's my point.
It's actually going to have to be Casemiro, Bruno Menu, unfortunately. Obviously, you got Collier, who's a bit more athletic but doesn't have the experience. Probably won't get to... Casemiro's already been kicking off at Ten Hag. I don't know what getting told Collier's going to play ahead he's going to do for him. So, I don't know, man. It's...
I'd have Collier ahead of him. And I know that.
What, ahead of Casemiro?
Yeah, I would. I think Casemiro's done, you know.
Do you think
Even on pre-season, right?
Saudi don't want him.
There was moments, I mean, that says it all, doesn't it? There was moments on pre-season where he'd do things that weren't even that great, and people going, wow, look, he's still got it. And you think, what? Because he's been that bad. And then there was moments where, off the top of my head, was it the turn against Liverpool, where, you know, there's these little things that he does when... Casemiro has this habit recently, and I listen, there's a time I love Casemiro. I think he's one of the best players, you know, for years, for Real Madrid, mainly not for us. But that first season was very good for United. But it's almost sad to see.
Yeah.
Like, you go back to the Palace game, was it easy when he slid past him, and he watched him? And he went, well, all right, and then carried on running and scored. And then you go to the Arsenal game where he was walking out of defence. Like he was, you know, he was just going for a stroll.
Jamie Jackson mentioned as well in training, you know, you've had a Jamie on here, and I'm sure you saw the open training sessions, going to ground a lot. Casemiro just sort of diving in and this is pre-season, this is training.
I just feel that he's not got it anymore.
That Casemiro diving in, like when he's like 5-10 yards away from the player, just basically taking a huge gamble. He might win the tackle 2 times out of 7.
Was it the Luton game you did where he got a yellow and then a minute later dove in?
It
should have got sent off.
Yeah.
It's lazy defending. It's very, very lazy defending that sometimes has a bit of a guise where people think it looks like he's making an attempt for a ball, but sometimes when you dive in like that, it's just lazy. It's just knowing that you don't have like the athleticism or the ability to stand someone up and basically not be square and not get beat and make it difficult, because that takes more energy than just diving in, hoping for the best. And that's what
seems like hoping for the best. Seems like, you know, some players that Aaron Wan-Bissaka dives in, he's not hoping for the best. He's getting that ball, and 99 times out of 100 he makes it, if not more. Casemiro, there's times when he's dived in, and the kids watched him. And then, like I said, no, it's not. And I know it sound like I'm digging him out, but I don't want to be like turning him as this figure of fun. But you've seen it with your own eyes, where it's reckless, it's dodgy, it could be costly.
If he does get a red card, do you think he's that arsed? And I know this is me digging him out there, and you just said you weren't, but I kind of think he just thinks. I think he's done so much and he's achieved so much that he's more about himself than an actual team now. And if he just dives in reckless and gets sent off, it's like. Not really.
He's in the honeymoon stage of his career, and this is the problem. Manchester United are trying to get to somewhere, and you've got a player like Casemiro who he gave us a really good 6 months.
Yeah,
but that's the problem with a player like that at that age, at post peak. The most you're gonna get is 6 months to a year, and then you got to think, is that enough for United? And then people are going to be like, oh, but then again, you can just replace him or get someone once United have gotten better, where he's helped you to probably finish top 4 or something. But you can't do that now, because you've already affected yourself FFP-wise and PSR-wise with the wages you've given him, and paying 75 million, was it, for Casemiro in the first place, just to have a good year out of him. That's not good business. And so that whole thing about him diving in, you do get the element with Casemiro that his United career, he just feels like a bit of a honeymoon phase. Put on a bit of timber, not very lean. It's just almost, and I don't. And United shouldn't be the retirement home for like players that were once great at clubs like Barcelona and Real Madrid, and so I don't think that should be the case for United. And as I was saying before, United would have been better served focusing on signings that probably aren't at like the ceiling level of a Casemiro of Varane, but they would still raise the quality of the team for cheaper, set the foundation, set the base, the team will gradually improve, and then in a year or two, you've still got the tools financially and the money to kind of buy that big money signing to raise the level.
It's a good point, because when you look at Fergie, I know Fergie was quite loath to go into the market for big name players from abroad anyway. I think he got his fingers burnt a little bit with Ron. But how many times did we go and get a cast off from Real Madrid or Barca or whatever? I think Henrik Larsson on loan was one of the few players where he was aging and we didn't buy him. You got him on loan and he did a job. It wasn't something we did. And then post-Fergie, we do it all the time where we get these players and it's like, whether it's a Ronaldo, whether it's a Cavani, whether it's a Varane, whether it's Casemiro, whether it's even to a lesser degree Alexis Sanchez, who's on his decline, and we went and give him a massive pay rise contract, where we're just getting these players who are past the best but are a big name and will come to United and almost like you say, it's like a Butlins weekender.
It is.
It's not
Is there links that he might go Casemiro, or have they died down a little bit?
Well, like Ronnie said, Saudi seems to be only showing sound and they don't seem to be wanting him.
Crikey.
And when I say Saudi, I'm not being facetious. That it is literally like one of the Saudi clubs.
Yeah, one of the big.
But none of them are really looking at him and going, it doesn't feel like that anyway. And now United are stuck with this player who's on about 300k a week, costs you 70 million. You're talking about above £100 million package for Casemiro for, like you said, 6 months. Let's talk a little bit about them, the players that we've been linked with. Because I'll start with Sander Burge, Ronnie, because you mentioned him, and I did a tweet the other day, and I think are you open to the idea of him? You said you are.
I had no clue about Sander Burge. Right, I'm not going to sit and pretend that I knew who he was. I've had to learn on.
Because I said I'm coming around to the idea, and then someone said he'd been listening to Ronnie, and I said, well, when it comes to football, I do listen to Ronnie. When it comes to everything else, I don't. No disrespect, bro.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, sometimes I'm great. You ask Ronnie
and
first.
Football opinion is my go-to
if
guy.
You ask Ronnie first, sometimes I just copy his answer.
I leave him to his own devices. He goes his way.
The thing is, that's the side that the watchers have no clue about. They'd probably think outside of talking and hear about football, they'd probably think I'm a different person.
Yeah, no. You have your own little ideas, and they're interesting.
And I make miles off it, innit?
Yeah, let's face that. But your football knowledge is second to none. So I was curious to see what your thoughts on Sander Burge. I'll be honest with you, I don't know a lot about the kid. I messaged my pal, who's a Burnley fan, who's a level-headed Burnley fan. As I mentioned this on Transfers Live, he's not one of those idiots that you get supports Burnley.
They're the best people to ask. Yeah,
he's all right, and he knows his stuff. And he was on it. He said, look, he could do a job for United. He said he probably wouldn't have you starting every week for you, but as a squad player, he said he's been our best player. He's a mid-table Premier League player, but he was playing from a bottomish table club, which you can make of that what you will. Can he come in and do a job for United? Yeah, but if he's going to be starting every week, is that going to be an issue? What do you make as the Sander Burge links? Do you think that he could be a stopgap?
I didn't know much about him, but I looked into the metrics, and by the looks of it, it looks like a data signing for Manchester United.
I looked on FBref, and at the bottom bit there was a load of greens.
Not FBref. They're looking at
there
more
you
like,
go. There's my inside info.
More of the advanced stuff. It was like something about his in the Premier League in Europe last season. He had the most ball recoveries. He had he had the second best long pass percentages behind Rodri. There's a lot of all these advanced metrics that were floating about on Twitter that made it seem like Burge was someone they've identified just from a data standpoint.
Okay.
Which is probably a bit of a progression and development in the scouting department of United than we're used to seeing, where it's usually what you name, how many shirts will this player sell,
or whether Ten Hag saw him playing for Feyenoord or whatever back in the day.
But it depends on how much he'll cost. Obviously, he's in the championship.
Has he ever been to Amsterdam on holiday?
Yeah.
Yes. Sign him.
What a sign. Let's get him in.
Oh, get him in.
Green light for the red light.
It does feel a little bit like that, doesn't it? So, data point of view, you can see why United would go for him as an option.
It seems like a depth signing with the ability where he probably could end up coming in and being a better option and a starter ahead of Casemiro. But what he also would be a functional stopgap that would allow United not to absolutely shit the bed midfield-wise in the season, because it provides another element and actually another body that's capable of obviously playing in the Premier League. He has a Premier League experience, where whilst probably going into next summer and maybe having a stab at someone like Adam Wharton, etc.
Adam Wharton, right? I tell you who's laughing right now. Palace.
Palace.
I was just watching the overlap. McCall's on the overlap, and Adam Wharton is like the go-to guy for almost every club. It's like Adam Wharton is the guy that could come in and save us, other than City. Even City are looking at him going, he could be an option for us. Now we've got all this money from the Alvarez deal.
Do you know who I need to shout out though?
Go on.
Because he was miles ahead of the curve, and he often is with players. He's called H on Twitter, HTO MUFC, and he knows his shit.
HTO MUFC.
Yeah, he proper knows his stuff. I recommend anyone to follow him. He was singing the praises of Adam Wharton for about 18 months now before he went to Palace.
Jesus Christ.
He said,
about to say, if you're going to say to me who's singing his praise after he played against United, then he can sort off.
He was like Adam Wharton's next up. When he was playing for Blackburn, saying he's an absolute baller. He's 18, 19, playing for them. I think Blackburn fans are raving about him as well. Palace, I think Dougie Freedman got a good track record with his scouting, and they've signed him. It wasn't even for a cheap fee. It was like 20-25 million for a player in the Championship that's 18, 19. And Palace are going to be able to flip him for something crazy now. But there is a lot of value in the Championship for young players, and because you see a lot of United fans saying, "Oh, as a Championship player, I don't want to sign him." You can find some proper gems in there that can come in and do a job. But Adam Wharton seems to be the player. I'm just concerned that next season it's going to be a bidding war for him.
It will be.
And if United aren't showing signs of going upwards, I don't see why he wouldn't end up at City, Chelsea.
I even think Arsenal could use him. I think they could.
I think City because City don't have a backup for Rodri.
Yeah.
And you've got someone that can actually come in and replace him eventually.
Because City struggle, don't they, when Rodri's out?
Yeah. Exactly. And now, that's why I tweeted about it. Atletico Madrid buying Julian Alvarez, their backup striker, for 80 million. I just absolutely cleared their FFP and PSR capabilities probably, and they've just probably facilitated a move for City to go and get Adam Wharton.
Yeah, I know.
Do you know what I mean?
That's the thing, innit? It's annoying because they could do that now. Yeah. They could literally go, right, there's 75 million quid for him, and Palace will probably go, all right, we'll have a bit of that £50 million profit.
Can I bring certain... So when you look at Ten Hag and with the players that he's got in his squad, and if you bought a Championship player, and you could often think there's certain coaches who could level them up a little bit, and I'm just wondering, has Ten Hag ever brought in a player and levelled them up in his time at Man United? Or has he, in any circumstances, barring Mainu, has he levelled up any individual in the United squad to be better than they once were?
People are arguing that he's done that with the youngsters in terms of Mainu and Garnacho. Some people may argue that Mainu was just that good anyway. He's probably sometimes players can just naturally be that without. But at the same time, I thought Ten Hag he did kind of blend Mainu into the team very well, I thought.
No,
I think he did. He didn't start him straight away.
Do you remember a year ago, 18 months ago, where we were sort of looking at it and going, this is a bit weird that Charlie Savage and Zidane Iqbal, who were smashing it in pre-season, Kobbie Mainoo is getting in the squad and they're not. Kobbie Mainoo is getting a few minutes here and there and they're not. That's a bit strange, but it wasn't strange. It was because, no disrespect to those two players, I like them both, they probably weren't good enough for United. And Mainoo was, eventually. And he was handled in a very sort of astute way, I felt. I know he got that injury against Real Madrid in pre-season, but that was no one's fault. And then when he came back into the team, you look at that game with Goodison, you thought, well, we need him. He's a good enough player to start for Manchester United. I think he's a little bit damned either way tonight, because it's like people go, well, Mainoo was that good anyway. It's now to do with it. Yeah. But he has done well under Erik Ten Hag. In terms of your original question, Joe, as Erik Ten Hag brought in any player and they've become better or levelled up?
Because that's what you'd look at. You'd look at those players and go, they aren't exactly going to be world class straight away, but can Ten Hag level them up a bit and get them firing?
I don't think he's bought a player necessarily, though, where you'd... I mean, a lot of the players he's brought in have sort of maintained a level or that you'd expect from them. Like, Martinez was mint at Ajax, he's been mint for United. Eriksen was, good at Brentford and Spurs and to a lesser degree, and he's carried on that. I know he's getting on a bit now. There's not a Mount that's just been injury ravaged. Onana's probably not been as consistent for United as he was at Inter or Ajax, but I still think there's a goalkeeper there. It's difficult because I don't think he's not exactly gone out and bought a load of youngsters. Do you know what I mean? Where you go, okay, is he going to make them kick on? He's bought... I mean, the one youngster he did buy, I think, well, two. Højlund, who has been a bit up and down, but there's a player there again. And Anthony was quite young when he bought him, but less said about that, the better. So it's a
Molasses nowhere to be seen.
Molasses, sorry, I forgot about him, which is easy to do because he's he's the invisible man at the minute. I want to ask you about the other ones then. Susanna Burge, sorry, you've explained yourself pretty well there, or explained the situation there. Adrian Rabiot is another one. He's become like a tradition. He's the modern day Sergej Milinkovic-Savic.
Yeah,
where we used to get linked with him every year. Now it seems that Adrian Rabiot. Is he a free agent at the minute? He left Juve, did he?
Yeah.
So he's obviously someone that Erik ten Hag admires. A decent player. And Rabiot for me is one of those players where if he signed, you'd be like, yeah, I get that, okay. But if he doesn't, you're not losing any sleep over it.
It's my classic Rabiot story that he came and signed for Man City when he was young. So they moved into our school for a year, and I played football with him.
What?
I played football with Rabiot. I tell this story every single time we're linked with Rabiot. You
said a load of words there that didn't make any sense to me whatsoever.
He signed for Man City when he was young.
Right.
So then he moved into our school with his older brother James.
Right.
Rabiot. James Rabiot. He was a good footballer. He was older than him.
Yeah.
Little lad. Rapid.
Right.
They only stayed in our school for a year, and Rabiot wasn't allowed to play football because of his contract with City. Right. Although the final game of PE of the year, he was allowed to play.
Right.
And
was he any good?
He was fucking brilliant. Although my mate Ewan saved a penalty against him.
Really?
Jesus
Christ.
Then he got signed and moved away. For some reason, I don't know why he came to our school, but for some reason he did.
What school did you go?
St James in Stockport.
Really?
It was Catholic school, so that's probably why.
All right, okay.
But good attitude then when he was a youngster. Don't know if
this is like the most
changed then, but
how old was it?
Only one of us has played football with someone who's been linked with United.
How old was he and you at the time?
We were 14.
You were 14, so he's coming to your school at 14.
Yeah.
This sounds like City doing the usual dodginess here, innit? Like
maybe,
bringing him into the area. Like, he's one of the kids. Yeah, dad probably got a job at the Etihad for like.
But his mum's his agent. Am I right in thinking that? His mum's his agent. Yeah.
You must know that. That was all.
Parents' evening was great.
In the name Veronica Summer, everyone was going on about winning.
And she's meant to be quite unhinged, isn't it?
Well, I feel a bit harsh at this. She's unhinged. Right, it's sort of this narrative in it that she's some crazy woman who should keep her nose out of football. And I think loads of players have the parents as agents. It's just mostly it's the dad, so no one really cares because it's the mum and she's playing hardball. And John Murtaugh, I'm going to fly out and get this deal done, and ends up getting sent packing. It's like she's the devil woman.
Yeah. I think she's. If you're Rabiot though, you're definitely happy with the way she is as an agent. It's just Rabiot's best interests.
Was she one of the French mums that was fighting in the stands? Was she involved in all that? Do you remember that?
When was that?
I think she
I remember that.
She'd go in kicking off any time that Rabiot wasn't playing or.
Right. You remember that? When France played. They played in the World Cup, I think it was, or the Euros. I forget which competition it was. Not the one just gone one previously. And it all kicked off in the stands. Apparently the mums were having to go each other, and it got into a bit of fisticuffs. Like
I think it was
Mbappe argument with Pogba.
Yeah, I think she said stuff about Mbappe as well, but.
No one implodes like the French squad.
I think Rabiot. I think if Rabiot
win a World Cup every now and again as well.
But meanwhile, you've got also you've got coaches flying home halfway through the tournament and witch doctors getting involved in all sorts going on.
If Rabiot wasn't happy though with his mum, could have sacked her.
Can he sack your mum now?
Of course he can.
Christmas dinner.
You could sack your mum. I feel like it'd be
present mum. What
could be easier
contract?
Just be like.
Just be like,
I've get
sacked me last one off.
I'll still give you dough on that. I'm just gonna get a different agent. Do you know what I mean?
It might work out well with you being your agent. She sounds like she's doing all right for him. He's not exactly been at shitty clubs, has he? But he's earning decent dough.
Oh, 100%.
He's basically just a better McTominay. He's a massive improvement on McTominay, but that signing would make no sense if McTominay was to stay, and also Rabiot would demand such huge wages as well, that you just find yourself in another issue where you're buying a player that's upwards towards his peak, approaching past it. It's a short-term signing where it'll cost a lot of money in terms of his salary, that when it comes to actually getting rid of him, which will just be as typical with United signing these type of players within 2 years, you're back to square one. You won't be able to sell him, and then that starts again. So I think United need to just stay clear of these type of signings for now. And if you can, I think us as fans, we've got to be prepared for almost like short-term pain with the regime being reset. Things might not happen as quick as you want it. Signings might not be as ambitious as you'd like them to be, but it'll be better off in the end, because I think some United fans are still asking for us to be doing the same things that have got us in the situation we are in now, in terms of going for the shiny new toy that might not be best for us, and then the signings being big names that are playing for big clubs, where if it's not that, people are kind of frustrated saying, oh, he's mid. Gen Z's buzzword. I think
it is.
do you know what I mean?
He said that.
Yeah, I think
I've never heard that for about a year ago and whatever it is. And it's like everyone says it now. It's like everything's mid. Some of the other players we've been linked with, the obvious, the big name, and the one that looked like it was going to happen now doesn't, and it might still happen. Manuel Ugarte. Gone a little bit cold on that front.
Why is it?
But he was a player that I think, for laymen like myself, you bought into the idea of him massively because we were so heavily linked with him. You start looking at his clips, you start looking at his stats, you start listening to people that have watched him. You go, okay, I get this one. This makes sense. Looks like a decent player. He can fit into this midfield. Probably works well with the likes of Mainu and Bruno. However, the chances of us getting him now seem non-existent, but slim. I mean, it'd be great if PSG just went, here's a load of dough for Sancho, and we'll say, well, keep that and we'll have Ugarte. I don't see it happening though. Joe, what do you make of Ugarte? Do you think he is the pick of the bunch?
Well,
if you could get anyone, or is there someone else you prefer?
No, I'll be honest. Like Ronnie, I've seen a bit of him at PSG. Not too much to come here and say is that he's going to solve all our issues. But to be fair, out of the ones that have been talked about here, from the Rabiot, by the way, when he said he's passed it, I was thinking no, and I still think I'm like 22. I'm 29. Rabiot's 29, isn't he? That's sad that if I was a Premier League footballer, I'm coming towards the peak of my career.
What you on about?
But as a Premier League footballer,
I've still not given up hope.
Are you still not giving up hope?
One day, you never know.
But out of them, Ugarte, because he's played amongst some great players, and he has the experience that maybe others don't. And the thing is with Ugarte as well, I think he could embed a bit more and a bit quicker.
What did you say, Ugarte?
Yeah, did you say Ugarte? I thought
sorry. You got
it. Seth called him Ugarte.
All right.
He said the G was silent, but he didn't tell it.
The G's silent, is it?
He didn't pronounce
like lasagna.
Yeah, which threw me a little bit.
Yeah, like lasagna, that's mad. The G's silent.
My G's move in silence. Like, you got it.
Yeah, nice. There you go. There's the chance sorted. If he does end up at Old Trafford. Ronnie, is he your fave? The one's been linked with, or have you got another little gem that you've been scouting?
All of these signings actually don't fit what we're actually looking for.
Are we looking for an out-and-out ball winner?
Yeah, we do. None of them are like.
It's not.
What are we looking for? Tell me.
We're looking for a player that's so specific that doesn't exist in the market right now.
That's disconcerting.
That's good,
I think
it's so specific, it doesn't exist in life.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and because like Ugarte isn't actually like a single pivot six on his own. And he's a high volume. His metrics are very high volume in terms of the amount of interceptions. That makes him.
That's what my pal said about Sancho Burge as well. By the way, he said he's not a single pivot. So
yeah. Okay. He said you got his numbers because he gets high interceptions and high tackles makes it seem like he's a better defensive midfielder than he actually is. He actually does get beat a lot, and his actual dual success percentage isn't very high. He just engages in a lot of them.
Yeah.
He's very like front foot, but he's not like very, very strong when it comes to the amounts that he win. But then when you look at the numbers, because he engages in so many, it makes him look like he's actually better. But when you actually need to look at, sometimes that's why stats can be a little bit misleading. But he still would have been a decent option, but you also got to wonder why PSG is so desperate to get rid of him. They're trying to recoup the money that he spent on him a year later by demanding, 50 million?
Something like that, yeah.
So I think that's a red flag as well.
It is a little bit worrying that, and I think you can ignore that because you're sort of desperate for United to sign someone. You can justify it and go, well, they've bought João Neves. They got Neves over the line now, or is that still being done?
Neves?
Yeah.
I think, that's over the line.
Yeah. Like, so they've got him in. He's a bit better. It's not the end of the world. Whatever.
I think Brighton signed a player that I went into the window near the top of my list.
Go on.
But in Matt's Wafer from Feyenoord, people saying, "Oh, it's another Eredivisie player." But I think he fit the profile more than a lot of these players.
Well,
some people are upset about Onana as well.
We'll put an £80 million bid in for him in a couple of years. Don't worry about that. Or maybe we'll sign him in 12 years.
But look at that. Like, if you look at that list, even you got Rabiot.
You can talk us through it. Go on, talk us through.
Even this Richard Rios, which I know little to nothing about, but I'm heard that he's more of an 8 as well. Yusuf Fofana is definitely more of an 8. Edison. I don't know if people are actually talking about Edison because of that amazing performance he put in the Europa League final against Leverkusen. However, and also he performed extremely well against Liverpool in the Europa League as well. But
I don't know. Have we mentioned Amrabat?
We briefly talked about him.
But is he worse than some of those other options? Do you feel? Like,
yes, I think so. I think there's actually a couple of those he might be on par with, but there's we have actual evidence of him not being good enough. Whereas, obviously, with transfers that haven't come, there's an element of the unknown. You don't know if they're going to fit or not. Whereas
you're being rational. You're not letting the FA Cup final.
The FA
your
Cup
view. I've completely drunk.
I think a big thing that United are looking for though in midfield is Bruno and Mainu. One of United's biggest issues last season, and we saw it in multiple games, especially the first one against Wolves, where other teams just look athletically bigger, stronger, faster than us. And that and I think...
Who was the kid at Wolves? Was it Cunha?
Cunha.
Who ran
just walked past everyone the whole game.
He was married on it.
The whole game, innit?
Yeah.
But it was like, was it Lamina as well?
I was like...
Any time one of them got on the ball, they just...
Is it me or are Wolves like the greatest team we've ever seen?
It looked
United just awful.
It looked like United, anytime there was any type of transition or running, it looked like Wolves were at ×2 speed and United were at half speed. And that kind of showed that was something that was shown quite a lot throughout the season actually, because even when you look at the two best teams in the league, in Man City and Arsenal, look at their physical flooring. Look, they're both teams that have got great technical quality, but Arsenal and City are actually teams full of monsters as well. You look at City. You've got Haaland, you've got Rodri, you've got Gvardiol, you've got Stones, Akanji, Diaz,
Kovacic when he comes in.
Walker, Kovacic less so, but he's
still a bit.
He's a bit physical enough. Yeah.
Physically, I mean,
it's just beastly teams. And you look at Arsenal, they've got Saliba, they've got Gabriel, they've got Ben White. They've obviously signed another centre back.
Declan Rice can put it about
Declan Rice, Partey. Do you know what I mean? Havertz. It's big teams, but they're also got, and I think that's where football's going. And United struggle technically, but they don't match up physically as well to these teams, and that's why I think people wanted the defensive midfielder to sign. As much as you want them to be good on the ball and good defensively, they need to have a bit of stature and size as well. So that's why people fancied Onana a little bit, even though he's not the perfect player either. And then Matt's Wafer, these players are like 6'2", 6'3". Obviously, Sander Burge, someone we linked to, he's like 6'4", 6'5". Someone with a bit of size, because I think Mainu and Bruno need a player like that with him, because without it, the physicality in the midfield is a bit of an issue.
I think we should just stick Cheeto Obi Martin in there. He's 6'4", in it.
Do you think...
why not?
We talked about Casemiro leaving.
Stick him in as DM. That's a revolutionary tactic.
Do you think McTominay will stay?
Yes.
Do you think he'll,
I do. It seems to have gone a bit cold there, doesn't it? I mean, I don't know, Fulham might.
From what one word though, like, it's the same with Wan-Bissaka and these, but he doesn't really want to leave.
I don't blame him.
And that's the problem.
It's the wages at United.
Unbelievable.
He's not even on a lot. He's not even on big money.
I mean, it's not even as much McTominay or even Wan-Bissaka. But like, I don't know, keep going back to him, but Anthony, wasn't he on like Sweaty Gay or something at Ajax? Didn't he get his wages like quadrupled?
You can't believe your luck.
Why not just double him? That'd be enough. Why do you have to go turbo on these wages? It's like, you didn't need to do that. It just seems a bit odd to me.
It's like Maguire, but same with selling Maguire. I'm not really able to sell Maguire because he's on like 200k.
Why is he on 200k?
He's got, and he's also shown.
He was the captain of Man United.
I know, but still, it's not just that though, right? When we're signing some of these players, we're giving them wages that are far more than they get either what they were on or where they get anywhere else. Like, there's got to be a little bit. Like, the Scousers used to have a limit of like 200 grand or whatever it was. I think they broke it in the end with Salah. But they had that limit for quite a while. And meanwhile, we were going out, giving out 220, 30, 40k at times to players that... I mean, you were in a scenario last season at one point where you had Sancho, Martial, Casemiro, all on over 200k, and none of them were playing for us.
Forgetting our highest paid player, Jadon Sancho, innit?
I just said Sancho.
Yeah, but Rashford must be up there with him, is that?
But at least Marcus Rashford, for all his faults, he's playing for Manchester United.
Yeah.
Like, Sancho was playing for Dortmund. And, you know, Casemiro, we've already spoke about the issues he had. And then, who was the other one I mentioned? I forget. Martial's another one on massive money. He only on like 200 odd K a week. He got a new deal after one.
Where is Martial, by the way?
I think. Do you know what I think United does with players? I think he just kills your enthusiasm for football in general.
Yeah. Look at Phil Jones. He just sat on the bench for 10 years collecting money.
I think him, De Gea, Martial have probably just had enough of football.
It's that, but it's also, I think, it's also they spent so many years on ridiculous money that no other club's going to play.
Yeah, well, there is that. So obviously a big point.
I'm not going to agree.
Because like someone like David De Gea surely could have got a club. I don't think he was that bad that no one in football would have touched him. But
wages.
He probably just thought, why should I take a 90% pay cut to go and play football when I don't have to?
It's like living to their means, though. These players are then obviously, they're on the money that they're on. They're obviously living to those means, probably with the direct debits, the cars, the houses, the lifestyle. That even taking like a 30%, 40% wage hit probably affects them in it. So I don't know.
No, I mean the good thing is the universal credit will go up.
Yeah,
you know, when it drops down, the government will look at that. So that'll come in handy when that monthly payment. No, you're right though. It's it's almost like going to United is bad for your career.
Yeah.
Hopefully Ineos can change all that. Sorry, it's been all doom and gloom, but we have to be honest. Right, we'll ask you quickly. Right. You've got Manuel Ugarte, Adrian Rabiot, Sander Burge, Richard Rios, Yusuf Fofana, Edison, and I'll throw in Amrabat. You have to pick one of those to come into Manchester United. You've got a magic one. You can pick one of them. Who you having?
I'll go with Rabiot so I can get him on the pod.
So you can say, do you remember me at St. Pat's, was it?
Yeah, no, St. Pat's. St. James's. We'll get him on a pod. He'll be sitting in the middle there. We'll talk about the good times, school dinners.
It will be slightly embarrassing when he goes, I haven't got a clue who you are. I'm like, genuinely, I do not know who you are. Like, how do you know I went that school? And you'll go, well,
I was in the same year as you.
He's still not going to remember you. That 1 year he spent at St. James's.
We changed his life.
It changed his life. You're right. I bet you look well different then as well. You obviously didn't have a beard.
No, I didn't have a beard. He's the player he is today because of us.
In what way is he?
I don't know, but I felt good saying it.
He probably looked at you lot and thought, fucking hell, I better pull my socks up here. I don't want to these dregs. I don't want to live in Stockport the rest of my life. No disrespect to the SK Massive.
I'm looking at Burge or Fofana.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I've seen a bit of Scout clips of Burge trying to get my head up to speed, like under pressure, his duels and stuff.
Yeah.
He looks very functional. And probably for a cut price fee, also like Fofana, just for the physicality that he'll bring as well.
Right, I said one. Who are you having?
He's greedy, isn't he?
Greedy. He takes it seriously. Where me and you just come out with bloody old guff.
Yeah. I'm gonna go for Fofana.
Fofana, fair enough. I'll go Amrabat just because Baldy's best, and I'm just not over the FA Cup final. Never will.
Brilliant.
Do you know
Unbelievable.
What I mean? I'd keep McTominay just because of that game.
Yeah.
I don't care anymore. Let's talk about the Community Shield, or the Charity Shield as I used to call it, or still do. It's a friendly, but it's almost a bit of an in-betweener, innit? It's like a friendly, it don't really count, but you do get a bit of medal at the end of it if you win. But it's not really a trophy. But it's at Wembley. Do you put much sort of energy into this? Do you look at this game and go, this matters? If we get a win here, it can set the standard for the season? Or do you think, who gives a toss?
Yeah, it's one of those where, you know, you've seen plenty of times you're doing well in the Community Shield and then just go on and not really have a great season. Or
2013, 14.
I remember when Liverpool a couple of years back and Haaland had a stinker in his first game.
That was the time to put money on him being top scorer.
Yeah, and he just went on bad. So it doesn't really mean much.
People would say Núñez is going to score far more goals.
Yeah, I always thought that the Community Shield could be used in, because you get these conversations a lot, don't you, about games happening on foreign soil that.
I knew you were going to say something outrageous. Go on.
I think Community Shield, take it on tour, do it in big stadiums across the world.
Right.
Sorted.
I mean,
why Wembley? When we were there in May.
Community Shield, though.
We were there in May and we were there in April.
Right, the Community Shield, you to me, has usually been one of those games where you take your kids and that. So it's kind of negating that, but you got to take them to Florida for the.
Yeah, well, are you?
This is Joel's logic. You know, let's take the Community Shield out of the community.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
That's not my logic. My logic is.
Well, it is literally logic.
The pressure's on, so obviously, and the money will talk to try and move Premier League games away.
I think you need to avoid it at all costs, and I think this opens the door to that.
What, one friendly a year at the start of the season?
100%.
It'll have to be renamed. It can't be the Community Charity Shield then, can it?
Why?
Because you've taken it out of the community. It's obviously something charity based with it.
But the community
England.
doesn't necessarily mean just London, Wembley, does it?
No, but it's England.
What does the community aspect of the Community Shield mean?
They had to change it from the Charity Shield, didn't they? Because only a certain amount of money went to charitable causes.
Still charity.
So they call it.
They'll make more money.
Yeah, but I think it goes to like grassroots projects, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now you could move it to Dubai and give it to Dubai grassroots projects, but I don't think they'll probably.
Would you not move it to Dubai and then give the money you make from that back to the grassroots projects? Probably even
then what's in it?
Making more.
I'd rather just keep it at Wembley.
I think you've complicated it there.
And let
I'm not complicated it.
Let some of the younger fans, you know, that's there. My first trip to Wembley was a Community Shield or Charity Shield as it was then. I think it's a nice day out. I know a few people are taking the kids in that. I'm not a big fan of moving games that were in England abroad.
Right,
There's nothing against foreign fans because, you know, I've been out to America recently and been Australia, Thailand in the past and seen how passionate those fans are. It's fantastic and it's good when we go on tour and stuff, but I don't think you should be taking games that are over there personally.
Joe played football with Rabiot, so now he's on now he's on the Super League panel with Florentino Perez.
Of all the games he played in the English calendar year, that's the one that could be moved.
Right, okay.
And that's what I'm saying.
Right, well, regardless of the geography of it all in the future, what was your answer about how much you care about it? You don't care that much. You're ready to shift it over to San Francisco or wherever.
Yeah, well, I don't think it's too much of a ridiculous shout, is it? We've seen how much stuff like that can benefit clubs and benefit brands, and just because there's a couple of reasons why, but I don't know too many people going down.
This sounds like the sort of thing
that makes sense.
Sounds like
if they weren't already on pre-season tour for that very reason that you've just said.
Do you know what though?
The brand.
This sounds like the kind of thing.
But it wasn't really too busy. Some of those places went too rammed, really. The Snapdragon.
The Sophie Stadium went rammed. The Snapdragon got. You know what? The Snapdragon got full by half time. It was weird because you saw. It was half empty, loads of people milling about, and then by half time it was full-ish. I think this is one of those ideas where this gets clipped up in about 10 years when it happens, and you go, look, I told you so.
Well, yeah, I'm not
beyond the realms.
It's not that beyond the realms, and I'd rather that than someone go, oh, by the way, a United home or away leg is gone. And then that's where it's
having that. You imagine
when a game doesn't mean too much. I feel
United versus City in the league, and it's in
that would be a nightmare.
Ronnie, the Charity Shield or the Community Shield as it's known, do you care? Does it matter?
It matters in terms of performance. Definitely, I think, because it's literally your last opportunity for you to actually what you don't often get in pre-season, which is your best 11 or most of your best 11 to see where you're at and almost set your stall for the eventual start of the season the following weekend. I think the Community Shield definitely has value in it for that. It's not something that we just can, like, if we play poorly we can just toss off. In terms of it doesn't matter, it's the Community Shield because football is a momentum game, and I'd like United to have a good performance that they can take some positivity in, some confidence in to then lead into the Premier League season.
Yeah, it'd be great. because we've got a pretty tricky start. I mean, Fulham should be all right, but they've got a little bit of momentum, and then Brighton, then Liverpool. So you don't want to get beat by City, and then
three tricky games.
It's three tricky games. You don't want to get beat by City and then have a tricky start to the league, do you? Because otherwise, then things get heated quick.
I'll be honest with you. I get your points. I think the big one for me is avoiding injuries.
Yeah, 100%.
Because our injury record is just amazing for all the wrong reasons. And I think if we went into the Community Shield and say Mainu, for example, or Bruno, got injured, or Mahrez, then you'd be like, Jesus Christ. It's nice if you win it. I don't think I've actually seen us lose. I don't think I've been at Wembley when we've lost the Community Shield. I've seen us win it a few times. I can't remember, to be honest with you. But we used to share it back in the day. That's how, important it was. If it was a draw, you just think, right, sack it. We can both have it. But yeah, I think in terms of fitness and just keeping players fresh and fit and just getting a bit of game time, players that haven't played a lot for United recently, like Luke Shaw, players like that, it'd be good to see him playing.
100%.
And hopefully avoid an injury. Just quickly, does it count as a trophy?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah?
Yeah, bring it on.
No, it doesn't count as a trophy. Really.
I will die on the hill that David Moyes did not win a trophy at Manchester United Football Club, and I will not have it. And I don't care how many times Jose Mourinho wants to give you that in Stockholm, right? He didn't win 3 trophies that season. Yeah, we did not win the little treble. So no, I don't think it does. I know you get a
trophy,
trinket.
Yeah, it doesn't mean much.
But I'd put the Snapdragon Cup above it, to be honest with you. Listen, gents, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah,
an hour. It's almost been an hour. Has flown by, and it
bring it on.
Could be an interesting 3 weeks. Is it 3 weeks left of the window?
Bring the new season on.
Because United need to strengthen. It's like that. That old David Moyes comment. United needs to, improve in passing, shooting, tackling, and running or whatever. It's like United need to strengthen in defence, midfield, and all attack. But it'll be interesting to see what we do and whether we do bring in a midfielder, because that seems to be the most pressing issue. Ronnie, good to chat again to you, brother. Where can people find you?
Ronaldo Brown 98 on Twitter.
On Twitter, old school. Joe, were you on Sloppy Joe's? Yeah, what's
have a listen to Sloppy Joe's podcast every single Tuesday. It's great. Yeah,
it's great, man. I enjoy it. It's a very, very funny podcast. Go and check it out. Them too. You know where to find me as well. If you've not done so already, make sure you are hitting like, share, and subscribe, and go and check out all the other videos we got on the channel. This has been, just remember what it's called then. I can't remember what show it was on. Off the bat. That's been Joe McGrath. That's been Ronaldo. I've been Jay. Thanks for watching.